was like 13 or 14 minutes late. He turns to me and he goes, "You're late, big boy." I said, "Doug, you don't understand. The 5 freeway was packed." And I start giving excuses like a young man would. And he put his finger up, and because I respect him, I stopped talking. He said, "Big boy, circumstance does not change responsibilities." This modern generation isn't experiencing that. God forbid you talk to someone like that at work today, you're sued. As men, we put our in a box and we deploy to work. Kevin described it well. He goes, "Our boxes are separate. We compartmentalize everything." We've heard that before. He goes, "Women, all their boxes are touching and they're stacked on top of each other." I go, "Holy shit, you're right." He goes, "I'm not even done." He goes, "Then there's wires coming from one box going into the other." And I'm, that's exactly it.
That's right.
So when she goes somewhere, she's still thinking of me. "Are you hungry? Can I order you something? Da da da." When I go away, I'm focused on work. And so I had to undrag my knuckles a bit. But that is also what being a man is, to remember that your wife is not a possession to put on a mantle and go and conquer something else, but to continue to date her, court her, make her feel heard and seen and understood.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end. As always, my friend, I give all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving to our God for that. Today, very special guest. His name is Bedros Keuilian. I'm sure some of you have heard of him. He's all over the internet, very popular guy, and fitness expert, nutrition expert, I would say. We're going to delve into that. I did it with Jillian Michaels. People really appreciated that. She was wonderful. And I think Bedros is going to be great too. And you know, one of the subjects I want to go into is just being a man. You know, what is it all about? Bedros talks about that. He stresses it. You know, I think he's going to give us, you know, what his take is on a man, and I guarantee it's going to be very similar to mine. You've heard me speak about it before. And, you know, people, I have to tell you something. People have been starving for this over the past several years. People wonder why Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate are so popular, because they got to young men and they preach to young men how to be men, what it means to be a man in today's world. Men have been dumbed down. It's been happening. This feminist movement, you know, really took the spirit out of men, took the manhood out of men. And I've said this 1,000 times. I'll keep repeating it. When men are real men, it's not demeaning to women. It's a benefit to women. And I'm going to get into that with Bedros, and we're going to talk about that quite a bit, because young men, you got to hear this. You know, and again, for those of you that are against Andrew, his message resonated with young men because they wanted to look up to somebody. They wanted a mentor. They wanted to know what their role is in life. They wanted to, you know, find their identity as a man. And I think in that regard, what he had to say is very good. For all you young guys out there, pay attention. And for all you ladies, pay attention too. You know, he'll talk about what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a father, what it means to be a real man, you know, in society. And let me tell you, it's not only to be a man, it's not only about supporting your family. There's more to it. We're going to get into that. So that and his advice on nutrition, I'm going to ask him, what do you advise, you know, the ordinary guy who's got to go to work, you know, and spend 8 hours a day, got to support his family, gets the weekends maybe to have some relaxation, maybe not. But how do you stay fit? How do you, you know, how do you eat the right foods? What is it? You know, some people think this is all so hard. It's not that difficult. I'm going to ask Bedros that. He's an expert, and I'm sure, you know, he's going to have a lot to say. I hope you enjoy this, people. I'm trying to provide good information, also entertaining in a way. Bedros is an entertaining guy. And I hope you appreciate it, because look, I'm here on this platform to entertain you. Yes, we're going to do mob stories. We've got a lot coming up. I'm talking about Joe Colombo and Accardo and a whole bunch of the guys that are behind me now on this tapestry. We're getting into all of that. I've got a couple of guys that came out of the life. One guy who was very close to Whitey Bulger we're going to be talking about. So we're going to do all of that. I know you like that. We're going to do it. And then we have our guests, you know, that I hope you enjoy. So we're trying to be informative. We're trying to be entertaining. We're trying to give you as much as we possibly can and fill a little bit of a void in your time in life. So that's it. Without any further delay, my very special guest, Bedros Keuilian. Bedros, been really looking forward to this conversation. You and I have a lot in common in a lot of different ways. I mean, I know you started out in the fitness business.
Yep.
And I am surrounded by fitness people, mostly my daughters.
Sure.
You know, my wife, when I met her, she was a dancer and always fit, always walking, always running, always in the gym, got me into that. And my three daughters followed suit. One's a personal trainer, the other one's a dancer, the other one's also into training. My son-in-laws are the same way, so I'm surrounded by it.
Yeah.
And so by default, I'm in fairly good shape.
Sounds like
I'll be
these folks,
74.
they want you to live long.
They do.
Is what I'm
They
hearing
do.
you say.
Well, I have a little advantage there. My father lived to 103.
No kidding.
Yes.
All right.
And I'm something I'm going to ask you about that because I want your opinion. I had Jillian Michaels on here
Yeah.
recently, and I asked her about. I'm going to ask you also soon. But look, I also love the positions you take on just men being men.
Yeah.
Such an important, teaching that we have to give these young
Mhm.
ones today. And I really want to get into that. I was watching one of your YouTubes and you talked about an experience that you had when you were younger that really meant so much to me. Somebody gave you some advice that you've carried throughout your whole life.
Yeah.
And I'd love you to get into that.
Yeah. Well, we do have a lot in common in that. Were you born here in the States or were you born
No,
in the
I was born in New York.
In New York, okay. So I'm from Armenia. I'm a former communist. My family and I escaped. We came to the United States when I was 6. And so growing up as an immigrant, I found myself living in Section 8 housing in the gang-infested parts of Santa Ana, not too far from here.
Mm.
And then you start getting into trouble with those guys. And the things we were doing was carjackings and robberies of homes because you can part out cars for auto body shops and they'll pay you cash for it. But a particular police helicopter chase ended up changing my path, which was great. 3 of my friends ended up getting in trouble. I was the getaway driver. So the lady's house that we robbed, she didn't recognize me. So they went to jail. I had my car repossessed and went to jail overnight. That was the end of that. But I share that with you because in that time, that was probably 2 years before or 2 years after I got into fitness, working out. And I got into working out because I wanted to impress this girl named Nakaya for the senior prom. So I was a kind of a chunky kid, had a chip on my shoulder. You come to this country, you're angry, you don't speak the language, you don't understand the culture, they're picking on you, they're beating you up, and then finally they accept you into their group, and now you're doing bad things, and you see yourself as a bad person. And so I asked a friend of mine in high school, I'm like, hey man, you're fit, you're jacked, you play football for the team, for the school. How do I get fit? He took me into the gym. The summer before senior year completely changed my life. I lost weight, came back senior year. I never had the balls to ask Nakaya to the prom, so I never went to the prom.
But she was the initial motivation.
She was the motivation. And you
Thank
know,
God for the women in our life.
it's women. Look, no young man is going to say, I did it for my health. Right? It's women. Women are some of the greatest motivators for men. And if women would understand that, they would see how easily it is to get us to do what they want.
I like that.
Yeah. Anyways,
Women, you're listening? Pay attention.
It's a great message there.
I have a question for all my friends and followers. Have you tried my wine yet? You know, in the last 2 years, we've made tremendous progress with Franzese wine, and it's really all thanks to your support, and obviously because people are finding out we have a great wine at a great price. In 2025, we aim to become a national brand, and I want all of you to be a part of it. Every bottle you buy, every story you share builds more than a brand. It fuels a movement. The story of our wine is one of people having second chances and of lives being transformed. That's the truth. So go to my website, franzesewine.com, and get your bottle today. Salud, my friends.
So anyway, with that in mind, I decided I was going to become a personal trainer in my early 20s, right? Especially after having been arrested now, this police helicopter chase. I decided, you know what? I'm going to get certified as a personal trainer. Now I'm fit. I've graduated high school. Everyone's going to want to work out with me. Turns out I didn't know anything about sales or marketing. And just because you're the fit guy walking around in the gym, hoping that people will say, hey, you're fit. I heard you're a certified trainer. Let me work out with you. It doesn't go that way. So now I'm broke. So I find myself working at Disneyland as a busboy, ultimately became a fry cook and a dinner cook. And if you've ever been a
sous chef?
Ultimately a sous chef.
The reason I bring
You
it
have
up,
done your research. Yes, sir.
Yes, and my son is a sous chef.
No kidding.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. I always tell people I can slice a tomato so thin you could read a newspaper through it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You do the heavy work.
Yeah.
Sous chefs do.
Sous chefs do the heavy work.
Yes.
The head chef gets the credit.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you for recognizing that. And so, but as a fry cook, the restaurant that I worked at in Disneyland. So think about this. I'm a personal trainer in a big box gym. I had 4 personal training clients, and I'm working as a busboy and then a fry cook at Disneyland. And on the weekends, I was working as a bouncer at a gay bar called Oz in Buena Park.
Mm-hmm.
Little unknown fact, Disneyland has the highest population of gay employees. And so I met,
Really?
yeah. So I met a lot of great human beings who are gay, uh, and as fruity pebbles, super nice. And one day I'm complaining to them, Michael. I'm saying, listen, I'm a personal trainer that only has 4 clients. I got all these nieces and nephews, and the holidays are coming. And it's between Disneyland and the personal training, I'm still not making enough money. And this guy, Bob and Randy were, I suppose, boyfriend and girlfriend, or boyfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob turns to me, he goes, well, you hang around with us here at Disneyland. Why don't you come and work at the bar that we go to on the weekends? They're hiring bouncers and they pay well. Sure enough. So now I've got a personal training job, which is what I want to do full time. I'm a fry cook at Disneyland and I'm a bouncer at a gay bar. I realized on the first weekend why they paid so well. At 2 o'clock in the morning, when the club gives out, the skinheads come outside in the parking lot and they're waiting to gay bash. And they got pipes and bats and all this shit. And I realized this is not where I want to be right now. This is not the path in my life that I want. So back to the story of what you're asking me. At Disneyland, there was a guy named Doug. And Doug was a Southern gentleman, probably about 6'3", 270 pounds, just a heavy set dude with a bellowing Southern voice. And he was a great leader in Carnation Cafe where I worked. I have to preface this by saying Carnation Cafe is on Main Street, USA, right? And you've probably seen it. And it's one of only 2 sit-down restaurants where you actually have a waiter or waitress serving you, which means back in the 90s, when there's the electrical parade, Main Street Electrical Parade, legitimately, Carnation Cafe is the busiest restaurant on the planet twice a day.
I remember that.
Once when the parade goes this way, another time when it goes that way. So the machine's popping out tickets. We've got thousands of chicken and burgers and steaks on the grill. And here I am as a young man showing up late to work. Ooh. And I show up late. And Doug is one of those guys, those supervisors, where he'll just flip his tie over his shoulder and put on an apron and start cooking. I had another supervisor, her name was Kathy, and I talk about Doug and Kathy in my book, Man Up, to give the example of a great leader and a poor leader, one that kills morale and culture and one that builds morale and culture while also getting up your ass. And Doug, as soon as I walked into the back of the restaurant, I was like 13 or 14 minutes late. He turns to me and he goes, "You're late, big boy." I said, "Doug, you don't understand. The 5 free was packed." And I start giving excuses like a young man would. And he put his finger up. And because I respect him, I stopped talking. He said, "Big boy, circumstance does not change responsibilities." And I thought about that. Yeah, whatever the circumstances are, I'm supposed to be here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I've got the closing shift. That's my responsibility to the guests who have come from all over the world, to my team members that I'm employed here with. And my circumstances don't matter. I've got a responsibility. And that was such a big lesson for me. I carried on that into entrepreneurship myself. Because Doug was such a great leader in that one sentence, circumstance does not change responsibilities. He helped me understand that I have to take absolute control of everything in my life. And if I do, circumstances will not be a factor.
Isn't it amazing how one lesson like that can impact you so strongly throughout your life, and such a valuable lesson?
Yeah.
So right. I have to kind of contrast that with a lesson that I learned. I'm 10 years old. My mother was very hard on me. I was the oldest of my 3 brothers and sisters. I was the oldest. And she was very hard on me. She didn't spare the rod. She was just rough, right? So she was giving me some trouble. I forget what it was about. I was 10 years old, and I walk into the other room. I had tears in my eyes. And my Uncle Joe, who was a merchant marine, hard drinking merchant marine, tough guy, he looked at me, he says, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Oh, my mother's doing that again. And Uncle Joe, and she's always on me." He looked at me and he said, "Do you have a dictionary in this house?" "A dictionary?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Go get it." Okay, I go up, I get it. He said, "Open it up to S." Okay, I got it open. He says, "Look up the word sympathy." I looked it up. He says, "You see what it means?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Don't ever look for it again." Just like that. Well, I never forgot that.
Yeah.
Never forgot, because the way he He delivered the message. Way guy, but never forgot that. And it's lessons like this. Circumstances don't change your responsibilities. They don't. Hey, in a mob life, I got to tell you something. You got a meeting at 8 o'clock. You're not there at 7:30. You're late.
Right.
Hey, no excuse. Sleep over the night before. Sleep in your car. Be at the spot you have to be. I don't want to know from nothing. Serious consequences times like that. But it's amazing how these little gems of wisdom from people that are sometimes smarter than you can impact our lives.
They shape our lives, and I think what you experienced, what I experienced. I'm 50 years old. This modern generation isn't experiencing that, and this is why they're looking to social media, YouTube, wherever, to find those uncles, those managers, because these days managers are afraid to talk to an employee like Doug talked to me. Like, I respected that. And I appreciated that because he shaped my life as an entrepreneur. He shaped my life as a man. And I was able to pass that message along to my son, Andrew, who's now 19, fit, strapping, a complete savage and a servant in life. And God forbid you talk to someone like that at work today, you're sued.
Exactly.
You're sued. And so there's an absence of that. And when there's an absence, there's a vacuum. And the vacuum is always going to be filled with something. And that something could be self-deprecation. It could be pornography. It could be alcohol, weed, whatever. But in the absence of a man leading a young man to his rightful place at the table, there's going to be a vacuum. And that vacuum will be filled with something, some kind of self-destructive vice.
Yeah. And your message has been very clear. I've watched you over the years, really teaching a man how to be a man. What does that mean to you? And what can we tell these young kids? I have the same message I put out there. What do you tell these young kids, or even men today, that don't act like men? You know, one of the things that are happening in our culture today, hopefully it's minimizing now, but it's still there, is if a man is acting like a man, it's somehow demeaning to a woman.
Right.
And it's just the opposite. When a man is a man, it's a benefit to a woman.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you could explain that, as well or better than I can.
You know, what you just said there, a dear friend of mine, Father Michael Butler, who is working so hard to bring me to Christ, he said it
working
best.
Or is it done?
He's on his way.
Oh,
he's on his
maybe
way.
I'll join him.
I had a feeling. The army of men looking to bring me to Christ is getting bigger and bigger, and I can understand and see the message.
All right, I want to be able to say something to you because I see you're very serious, and you'll pay attention to things.
Yes, sir.
Before this is over, I'm going to say something to you that I want you to think about with respect to our faith.
Sure.
You're up.
And so Father Michael Butler said, masculinity, which is what you're describing, being a man, and everyone knows, like, you can go up to any young man and say, hey, what is being a man like? And I'll say, well, you'll stand up for what's right and wrong. You will stand in the gap. You open doors. You stand up when you shake hands. They have a general idea of what being a gentleman and a chivalrous man is. One that's a protector, a provider, confident, capable, competent. However, Father Michael Butler said, masculinity is a gift from God. And when a man doesn't exercise his masculinity, he's essentially,
I love that.
Blasphemy. It's blasphemous. It's literally throwing it in the face of God. It is a gift from God. If there was a loud bang just outside right now, your wife is on the other side of the camera. I don't know who else is in the house, but it is going to be us men who are going to run outside to handle business. It is just expected. I would not expect the women and the children in the house to run outside. They have a different duty.
And that's not demeaning.
That's not demeaning at all.
That's just living our role. That's it.
It's factory installed in us. It is not factory installed in them. And so when this happens, someone says, well, that's demeaning. You're right. Society has done a great job of brainwashing us, saying, well, there should be all types of equality. There should, because I don't know how to deliver a baby. And I'll tell you this, when my son and daughter were like, Andrew was 4, Chloe was 2 years old, my wife went on a 2-day girls trip. By the end of day 1, Michael,
I know what you're going to say.
I was going to strangle my own kids. Strangle them.
I know exactly. I'm with you, bro.
She came back 2 days later. I said, I would rather start 2 more multi-million-dollar companies and deal with the stress of competition, of legislation, because of the work I do. I deal with the Federal Trade Commission, because I'm in the franchising space, right, with our gyms. I would rather deal with the stubborn bureaucratic government than have to take care of my own 2 babies, because They're babies. They want their
Yes.
mom. I don't have that superpower. Now,
Right.
today Chloe is 17, Andrew's 19. They're stuck to my hip because I'm cool. I work out, I do jujitsu, and they do all that shit with me.
Right.
But in that time, they need mom. So I can't say I want that same
Exactly.
equality, right? And so a man must do what a man must do. And in the absence of masculinity, it is a slap to God's face, according to Father Michael Butler, because masculinity is a gift from God and we must exercise it. Now, is there such thing as toxic masculinity? Absolutely. I believe toxic masculinity is when a man is passive aggressive. He's the proverbial nice guy, the nice guy who's he's
Mm-hmm.
passive aggressive. You can't really trust him. He'll say one thing to one person, another thing to the other person. He's a bit gossipy. He spreads rumors. He talks, and then when you go to confront him, he's denying it all. That nice guy, that's toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
A true man has honor. A true man has strength, honor, courage, and mastery. And this isn't coming from me. This is coming from the great author Jack Donovan, New York Times bestseller. He wrote a wonderful book called The Way of Men. And everyone listening to this should get Jack's book, The Way of Men. And in that book, he talks about all men, because as he went to deconstruct what makes a man, and with your background, you can appreciate this strength, both physical, mental, and emotional strength, right? There's probably been times that you've chosen to zip your mouth and not say a word because you've exercised like mental and emotional strength. There's times that you've had to utilize physical strength, courage. There might be times that you have to step into the fire. And a man that is not willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with another man and step into the fire does not have courage. Honor, in other words, do I trust you? Is there loyalty? Is there some kind of shared core values? Do I have to sleep with one eye open? Do I have to look over my back with you around me? If there is no honor, we have no relationship as men. And then mastery. Mastery is, look, I realize we can't all be fighters and warriors and be courageous. But for crying out loud, can you build shelter? Can you make a weapon? When you think about the caveman times, not every caveman was a warrior. But if you don't have mastery, you can't make a pot, you can't make a bow and arrow, you can't make a spear. You're useless. The only time that's unforgivable, the only time it's unforgivable for a man to not have one or all of those four things is when he's old and useless to us, in which case the tribe must protect him, or he's crippled and disabled.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only time that I will say it is okay for you. I'll carry your load. Beyond that, you carry your own weight because that's what's expected of a man.
You're right. You know, and I hope people understood what your definition of toxic masculinity is, because I believe that. You described it perfectly. Today, it's been polluted to think that if a man says, "I'm the protector," I'm the one that provides for the household. That's toxic because we're demeaning women in that regard.
Right.
They've got it wrong.
Yeah.
What you said, you explained it exactly right.
Yeah.
Now I want to tell you something. You opened the door for me. I have to jump in.
Yes, sir.
When you talk about manhood,
Yeah.
Jesus of Nazareth. I'm not saying Jesus Christ. I'm not saying the Savior of the world. Jesus of Nazareth, the man. From the time I was 5 years old, my father drummed it into my head. You got to be a man's man. That's the standard in life you have to live up to. You walk down the street, hold your head up high. You got to have integrity, treat women and children properly. Man's man. I got into the life. That's all I ever heard. We're men of honor. We're men above men. We're men's men. So when I came to faith, I had challenged Jesus because I said, growing up as a Catholic, I always saw this wimpy view of Jesus. I'm not blaming Catholics. Hanging on a cross, they never spoke about the character of Jesus of Nazareth. So I started reading the Gospels. I separated his deity from his manhood, and I started reading the Gospel about Jesus of Nazareth. And Bedros, I'm blown away. There was no greater man that ever walked the face of the earth. You have to study him in every facet of his character. You know, take that a step further. I went to Jerusalem and I walked the Via Dolorosa, the place where he allegedly, not allegedly, it's true, he dropped 3 times while he was holding the cross. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, how did this man get up? After being scourged, and this is factual, a lot of people say, well, this is myth. It's not. It's historical. There's so much evidence to back up and support that this is reality. This really happened. And nobody disputes the fact that Jesus lived. Nobody disputes the fact that he died. People have a problem with the resurrection. Same authors, everything, but people have a problem with that because that seals it for us, for everybody. And so I said to myself, wow, I'm impressed with this man. So if I try to emulate him throughout my life, Well, I'm married. I'm going to be a better husband to my wife. I'll be a better father to my children. Everybody in the community will benefit from me emulating the greatest man that ever walked the face of the earth. And at the end of the day, I'm going to benefit. And then I said, well, I like to break things down. Well, if he's not the savior of the world, when I die, I'm dead anyway. So what did I have to lose? But throughout my life, I benefited from emulating the greatest man that ever walked the face of the earth. So what I'll ask you to do, now there's not, go home and study and see
Fair
what
enough.
you think.
And to that point, I've actually started.
Okay.
This year I picked up the Bible, and that Bible where you can read like over 365 days.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm supplementing it with the teachings of Joseph Campbell. He wrote a phenomenal book called The Power of Myth.
Yes, I know of the book.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm right there with you, and I appreciate it. And it's good to have great men who want to look out for me. But I agree what you said with, look, if I live like Jesus, what is the harm? I'll be a good man all around to humanity, to my family, to my friends, to my team members, to the world. And if it was to be true, then obviously I go to a better place post death.
Got everything to gain.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this too. I'll just leave with this, and then I want to get onto something else. It's good, and you know this as a man, it's good to have a healthy fear of things that are no good for you. I have a healthy fear of drugs. I had a sister that died of an overdose. My brother, a drug addict for 25 years. Bedros, I can't even begin to tell you what he put me through personally, just trying to keep him alive, plus my family. I have a healthy fear of that. I have a healthy fear of gambling. I've seen more people destroy their lives over gambling. It's kind of a silent thing. Comes up on you. You're broke. You're in trouble. You're addicted. I don't want to touch it. I don't gamble. And I don't take drugs because maybe I like it too much.
Right.
So I don't even try it, right? Because of what I witnessed. When I was in a hole for 29 months and 7 days, 6x8 cell, that's it. I got a healthy fear of hell. Because, when I read the Bible, Jesus spoke more about hell than he did about heaven. I said, I don't want to go there. It motivated me to do the research. I had my wife send me in 300-400 books on every faith. I started studying everything. I said, hey, I ain't kidding myself. I want to know what's real here. And I came out of there with that conclusion that this is our faith. So the only reason I bring that up, because I want people to understand, it's good to have a healthy fear of things that are no good for you.
I would agree.
They motivate you to stay away from it and to learn the truth. So
I would agree.
Anyway, I want to ask you something else. I have so many men that I mentor that come to me, that have messages through all sorts of social media platforms like you have, men that I meet. Michael, I'm a good man. Well, what do you mean? I take care of my family. These are successful businessmen. They have everything that they need. They go to the best schools. My wife drives a good car. We live in a good house. I got it all. So what's your problem? Oh, my marriage is falling apart. So in other words, they've got everything but you. You're not a real man.
Yeah.
And they go, well, you're not. You're not taking care of your number one responsibility.
Right.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think I can put that into perspective for all those men. And as men, let's acknowledge one thing. Part of being a man is to acquire, to conquer, to build status. And so what do? We might buy a whole bunch of timepieces. And how many wrists do you have? But how many timepieces might you have? How many cars can you drive at any one time? Yet how many cars do I have when I think about the number of cars that I have? So it is in us to be competitive, to want to acquire and to build and to create a legacy. So I get that. But what ends up happening is we chase after this girl because we think she's hot, she's cute, there's some kind of energetic connection, and doggone it, she looks good in a sports bra. And
True.
Look, that's what it is. Call me a womanizer, but the reality is that gets our attention. Like when my wife walked across the gym floor, this is before we were even dating, and she was wearing, like, back in the day, back in early 2000s, the bike shorts.
Yeah, I remember.
I damn near broke my neck, and I've got traps that touch my ear. And so there's a way to get attention. But I share this with you because men like to acquire and then put it on the shelf and then go, got it, on to the next mission. The one area you can't do that with is with your spouse. And so we'll chase after her, we'll woo her, we'll buy her flowers, write poetry, send her cool songs. And, back in my day, probably your day, you're making mixtapes for them. And then you acquire them and you put them on a shelf and you go on to conquer. And what ends up happening is she starts feeling like, hey, I'm just another piece of possession. And I think I'm just being taken for granted. And what I like to remind men when I work with them. I say, you didn't choose your mom and dad. They go, you're right. You didn't choose your siblings. Yeah, you're right about that. You didn't choose your kids.
That's for sure.
Right?
No,
I mean, you and your wife.
We made them. We didn't choose
You
them.
made them. Yeah. You didn't say specifically this tall, this height, this personality.
Sometimes you say, I wish I would have programmed you a little bit differently.
Right.
Yeah.
It's only one person that you actively chose, your spouse. Yeah. And so if we know that you didn't choose your parents, you didn't choose your sibling, you didn't choose your kids, you actively made a decision to be partners, life partners with that person. You owe it to that person to continue to date, to continue to make them feel seen and heard, because that's what a woman wants. Continue to date me, make me feel seen and heard and understood. Not solve my problems. Make me feel seen, heard, and understood. What do we want? Respect over love.
Yes.
I did a survey with when my YouTube audience was 500,000. It's almost 1 million now. With 500,000, I put a community post up, and I said, if you could only have one, fellas, not both, only one, what would you take? Love or respect? And I intentionally put love up first.
Wow.
86% chose respect.
Really?
If you could only have one.
Ooh, I gotta think if I'm guilty of that.
Think about this. A woman can love you, but not respect you.
That's true.
Right?
Absolutely true.
But if you don't feel respected, it's hard for you to love your woman. And so a woman must respect you. Now, with that said, a man must win every day her respect. Like we are knights and we go out to battle for the princess. That's how it is. We are the kings, and the queen must be fought for every day. That's what we do. And when we stop fighting with her, she starts treating us not like her king, but more like her son. So she loves us, but doesn't respect us, because if she has to get a job, if she has to put on pantyhose and makeup and get her hair done for another man that she works for, you've lost all respect.
I love when you said that, because my wife, she's into photography now. She does all my filming, all this video stuff. As you know, she's here behind the scenes. She said, I'm really thinking about maybe I'll expand a little. I said, nobody else is going to be telling you what to do. I don't want any other man telling you what to do. That's it.
Yeah.
I may not win that argument. I don't know, but I'm going to, because my wife is strong. She's independent. But I'm going to be, I'll tell you this too, audience, I'm sorry, but my wife puts a long gown on, to go to sleep with. I said, hey, can you wear the short one?
Right?
Yes. She puts her shorts on. She got these denim shorts. I said, they're great. I love them, but don't go outside with that.
Right.
I'm crazy that way.
You can be cold in the bedroom, but don't go outside with it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good thing.
I love that. And look, that's women need, she's standing right there. Do enjoy when he tells you that.
Yes.
Right? Because women want to be hunted. We want to be respected. Women want to be hunted. You want to know that, like, man, I still catch his eye after 40 years, man, right?
Yes.
And so if she puts on the long burqa and you're just like, whatever, good night.
As she's walking into the restroom, I say, lift it up.
Yeah.
Let me get a look, right?
Right? Like
It's in a bedroom. What's wrong with that?
That's exactly it. And deep down inside, I just know this. I've talked to enough women, because I've got this program called The Project. And we work with 40 to 50 men at a time for 75 hours straight. And then I get letters from the wives. Not because I asked for it, but because they send me the letters. And they're like, wow, he's hunting me again.
Oh, that's great.
And I love that. And I go, what else? Because then I'll start writing back. What else? Well, I realize that I need to respect him and not treat him like my boy. Oh, how about that? How about that? But he needs to win your respect, and you need to respect him. And that's how you're going to get the love that you want. And I tell guys, like, look, man, Steve Jobs made it easy for us. Because here's what we do. I've got a great therapist. His name is Kevin Downing. He's in Brea, California. I said, Kevin, look, man, when I go on speaking tours, if I'm speaking to a 5,000 person audience, I get there 2 days before. The day before, we do a sound check and stuff. All the speakers have to go do a sound check. They put the shit on and you say the ABC backwards or whatever. And I go, the last thing I need is for my wife to text me and say the water heater busted. Well, we got a big property. We got 4 water heaters. We got 19 bathrooms. We got 18 car garage, whatever. Something's going to go wrong. Figure it out, right? But it's funny, because when I'm in town, when all those same things happen, I wouldn't get a text. It's only when I was out of town. And what I realized is, especially this is when the kids were younger, she's dealing with kids throwing up and having diarrhea and not sleeping through the night, while I'm about to proverbially make love to an audience of 5,000, right? That's when you're on stage and you're speaking, there's an energy exchange. And so I said, Kevin, I got to be focused on my work, man. This is the modern day version of hunting. If I'm a caveman,
I hope my wife is listening to you very intently because
she had the headphones on. I think she is,
Yes.
or she's listening to music. She's
I'm
like,
gonna tell you why.
these guys. Yeah. But so I'm complaining to my therapist, right? This is like 13 years ago. I'm like, man, we got this housekeeper. Her name is Marlon. She's been with us for years. I got a chauffeur, Hugo. He drives around everywhere. Like, there's no reason for her to be upset. And he starts laughing. He sits back and he starts laughing. I go, Kevin, what are you laughing at? He goes, Steve Jobs made it easy for you. What do you mean? I said, well, listen, when I'm at the events, that's the modern day version of hunting. That's how I make my money. Because I'm not only getting paid to speak, I'm closing people without them even knowing. And afterwards, when I'm doing the meet and greet, they're throwing $100,000 at me at a time, getting a year of coaching from me. And that's me hunting, Kevin. And I'm just passionately intense this way. And he starts laughing some more. He says, well, Steve Jobs made it easy for you. There's a series of emojis you can send. The little flower emoji, the heart emoji. I was like, oh. He goes, she just wants to know that you're still thinking of her while you're doing the sound check. You're still thinking of her while you're getting a standing ovation. You're still thinking of her while you're out there hunting. I was like, well, I could do that. Of course, instead of the heart emoji and the flower emoji, I like to send the peach emoji, the little devil emoji, the eggplant, and the little water squirty emoji. And because that's the language that I speak, and she gets it, she understands, and she sends the little heart eyes. And guess what? Water heaters continue to break down, toilets continue to get backed up. I don't get text messages.
You don't get the call.
Yeah. And so we have to make them feel heard and understood. As men, we put our in a box and we deploy to work. Kevin described it well. He goes, our boxes are separate. We compartmentalize everything. We've heard that before.
Yes.
He goes, women, all their boxes are touching and they're stacked on top of each other. I go, holy shit, you're right. He goes, I'm not even done. He goes, then there's wires coming from one box going into the other. And that's exactly it.
That's right.
So when she goes somewhere, she's still thinking of me. Are you hungry? Can I order you something? Da da da. When I go away, I'm focused on work. And so I had to undrag my knuckles a bit. But that is also what being a man is, to remember that your wife is not a possession to put on a mantle and go and conquer something else, but to continue to date her, court her, make her feel heard and seen and understood.
You're so right about all that. My wife, I've been on the road for 25 years now, quite frequently. Now it's got to a point where the day before I'm ready to go, she's mad at me. A whole mood change, attitude change. So, I go overboard and try to, and when I get on the plane, hey, honey, I'm leaving. During my plane, I'm texting her. When I get to the hotel room, I show her the room. This is where I am. So, I got to go. But I understand. I've been doing this for a long time. She don't want me to go anymore. But that's a good thing because she could say, hey, I can't. When's your next trip?
Right. I can't wait for you to leave.
Right. So that's not happening. But no, what you said is it's so true. It really is. You've just described the relationship. You being a man, her being a woman. We each have men, and they have their place.
Absolutely.
They're
There's
not
roles
the
and
same.
responsibilities.
We're not the same.
Mm-mm.
I'm going to tell you something. I don't know how you feel about this. I know it's been in the news lately. I don't want any woman fighting on the front lines of a war.
Mm-mm.
And it's not that I'm not saying they're not capable. They might be. I don't want to see it. That's my job. That's your job. That's a man's job. You got other things to do that are equally important, maybe even more important. You got to take care of the family. You got to raise the kids, something we couldn't do that effectively. And those guys that, single divorce and you're raising the kids, I'm sure you're doing okay. You're probably not as effective as your wife would have been. That's just the end of that, or a woman would have been. Just different roles.
Yeah.
And people sometimes, they don't understand that.
They don't.
And it gets me crazy that they can't see that.
I don't think it's not that they can't. They've been brainwashed into not seeing it. Like, if we're going to be really honest, the pandemic was the test. That was the test, and we failed miserably as men. Miserably. One of my dear friends, he's a big-time actor in movies and such, and during the pandemic, man, I was on Fox News. I went on Fox News 9 times over 3 months, talking out against the pandemic. And remember, all my gym owners, Fit Body Bootcamp franchise owners, they're all small business owners.
Right.
They're small 3,000, 4,000 square foot gyms all across America.
They close them down?
Yeah, we closed them down, right? Well, I announced that, hey, we need to close them down for the first 2 weeks. But being a former communist, I know I can't trust the government. I was like, what would my dad do right now?
I like that.
I turned to my CEO. I'm like, hey, in case this thing goes beyond 2 weeks, create some workouts that people can do at home online so our franchisees can send those out to their clients. And of course, we know what happened. But after that, I was like, fuck this. I'm going to go on the news and say, open up all your businesses. Obviously, take the precautions to clean and sanitize, et cetera. And we created a model because we have a boot camp workout model where, so in other words, like every few minutes, you're touching something that someone else touched. But we created what's called a train in place model. We taped off a 6x6 area, we put some kettlebells and balls in there, and we put 20 people in there. Off you go every 30 minutes, wipe everything down, get a new group in there. So there was no reason not to allow us to train. But I share this with you because our franchisees are small business owners, and I had the responsibility, as I see it, to go on the news and announce to the world that we're staying open because we know that society needs to be connected, that workouts are good for your immune system.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I watched Fox News. I remember that. Yeah.
And my franchise attorney would call me and say, look, your franchisees are about to get fined, and when they do, they're going to do a class action lawsuit against me. I said, well, I didn't come from an oppressive government like communism, the Soviet Union, to sit here with my mouth shut. So then I started to post things on social media that all of this is a scam. And of course, what do they tell us? Oh, you're wearing a tinfoil hat. It's all conspiracy theories, which now we see that Fauci, how do you get pardoned preemptively? How does that happen?
If they don't investigate this, and this guy needs to be, I hate to say it, he needs to be in jail.
Absolutely.
He's got so much blood on his hands.
Absolutely.
You know, he's Italian. I don't care if he's Italian. I don't care what he is. I hate him. I hate what he did more because he's Italian. Bad guy.
And so I say we failed as men during the pandemic because then I started actively posting, and that's when I created my BK show, where I just look down the barrel of the camera and start speaking to men's heads and hearts, because I knew that no one, women and children aren't going to stop this oppression. The elderly aren't going to stop this oppression. It's going to be us able-bodied men who are going to say, I'm not going to follow the law. I'm going to follow what is truly righteous and correct. And we all know that instinctively, like 6 feet. We knew that was arbitrary.
Stupid.
They're letting people go into Walmart and Target licking doorknobs, but you can't go into a gym and work out.
Stupid.
Yeah. So anyways, one of my dear friends, as I was posting all this shit on social media, he's a big time actor in Hollywood, and I love him, and he came around, so can't blame him. But he would text me a screenshot of what I put on social media, and he goes, I can't like this and leave a comment, but I just want to tell you I love this. And I reached out to him, let's just call him Bob for now. I reached out to him, I said, hey, Bob, if more of you came out and said this and stood up, he goes, but this is how I make my livelihood. I said, I'm making $200 million a year with my franchise. I've lost 218 locations in 4 months. I'm losing millions of dollars, and I will go down to 1 location or 0 location, but I will not keep my mouth shut. This is how I make my livelihood. But these are all small business owners.
Yeah.
And so anyways, we failed as men, and the reason men are confused and they don't know their duties and responsibilities is because the previous 15 years before the pandemic, churches, school systems, universities, television, radio, music, media, all of it was used to make men, to declaw and defang men. And we need men to be clawed and to have fangs. Now, know when to use your claws and fangs, but we need men to have claws and fangs, because if we don't, it is too easy to create this level of oppression and slowly encroach on our constitutional rights, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah. No, you're 100%. You're right on with all of this. Let me one step further. I have continuously said that most of the problems we have socially in America are due to the breakup of the family.
Absolutely.
No father figure in the house. I spent, several years in prison. A lot of young kids coming into the system, 21, 22 years old, mandatory minimum drug sentences. 20 years with the feds, no parole, you got to do 17 and a half. You could have wrote the same script for every one of these young men. Broken home, no father figure in the house, mom young, trying to do her best, normally has 2 or 3 kids. She couldn't really handle a kid. They gravitate to the local gangbanger, local drug dealer, end up in jail or something worse.
Yeah.
They have no guidance.
Yeah.
No guidance. People think, oh, it's okay, we don't need a man. No, you need a man in the house. The father is important in the house.
Yeah.
I've seen it with I have a little bit of a different relationship with the one daughter that I've been with since birth. The others, I wasn't around for 8 years, and you could see a little bit of a difference. Thank God I had a great wife, and people rallied around, and the kids were all good. But you could see a little difference because they didn't have me there, especially with my son.
Yeah.
I had a lot of trouble with my son.
Sure.
For a while. He's straightened out now. He's a sous chef. He's doing great.
How old is he?
He's 35.
Oh, that's awesome.
Until he was 25, I had a rough time with him.
Sure.
I mean, this kid, I communicate for a living. I couldn't communicate with him. He turned me right off.
Yeah.
Didn't want to know from nothing.
Yeah.
My wife used to say, pray for him. He's a late bloomer. I used to say, but how late? It's getting late. But anyway, she was right. I was wrong on that. But you got to have a father in the house. Yeah. A man that's a father.
You made a really good point. You said in the absence of a father, they turn to the local gangbanger and drug dealers.
Yeah.
We're programmed to do that. a rite of passage. You think about what the Aborigines used to do hundreds of years ago. They would take a young man as he's 13, 14 years old, dad and a group of the friends from the tribe that he trusts would go into the house early in the morning and steal him out of the house. And they would have these demonic masks on. And they take him out of the house, and mom makes the whole fit because mom knows what's happening. She's in on it. It was a rite of passage. And mom would scream and shout and hold on to their boy, don't take my baby. And of course, dad and his friends have the demonic masks. They take him outside of the house and they start beating him up. They wake him out of bed. They start beating him up and then eventually start pulling back a bit so that he can fight back and beat them up. And then dad takes off his mask and puts it on the boy, revealing his face, puts it on the boy, and he hugs his son and he says, son, you've now won a right to sit at the table with the men where we're going to forge you into a man. That was his rite of passage. Now we're going to test you and challenge you and teach you the way of men. In New Guinea, at night, as the sun was going down, the dad would usher the son, the dad and some of the men that he trusted would usher the son to the edge of the forest. He'd take his blade off his hip. He'd cut the boy's arm just enough to make him bleed, hand him the knife. He says, go into the woods, fend for yourself. Don't come out until the sun comes out tomorrow morning. We'll be right here waiting for you. When the morning comes, sun comes out, the son steps out of the forest. The dad hugs him and he says, we're going to forge you into a man. You're no longer a boy, you're a man. So when there's an absence of a father, the boy instinctively will always look for the next older males who are doing something to get attention, status, authority, celebrity, and it could be a gangbanger, it could be a drug dealer, it could be anything. And it's for this
guy.
Yeah, it could be a mob guy.
That's the attraction to them.
There is an attraction to it. Like as boys, we are curious. We want to take risks. And it's dad's job to be rough and tumble. It's dad's job to take you out there and show you the world, but in a way that you're protected, and then slowly open up those boundaries and teach you why he's doing these things. And in the absence of that, boys will always look at it. And somebody asked me, well, that doesn't exist for women. So what is this? That, you know, it was a feminist who was asking me this.
Of course.
I said, actually, a rite of passage does exist for women. It's just, it doesn't have to be administered by the dad. She said, what do you mean? I said, there comes a time in a young girl's life where she has her menstrual cycle, her first menstrual cycle, and she sprouts breasts. In that moment, mom says, honey, you're now a woman. There's a very physical, magical, beautiful, God-given thing that happens to a girl that is now celebrated. You're a woman. What happens to us? Nothing. All the men in here, there was no defining moment that said, you're now a man.
Right.
It is the dad's job to say that you now have a seat at the table. We're going to groom you into being a formidable, competent man. And if the dad is absent, we will look up to the next available male, good or bad, and you know, God help us that it's a good person that we're looking up to, but more often than not, when there's a father who's absent from the household or a father who's just emotionally and mentally absent, in other words, disconnected, who just says, well, I provide, you provide, the government can provide. If all you think is your job is to provide shelter and food, the government can put your kids on food stamp and put them in Section 8 housing, and now we don't need you. There's more to providing as a man than just providing food and shelter. And so there's so much to be said for that. This is why, by the way, this is why knights had squires. The knights had squires because it was the knight's job to teach that young man through sword fighting, by cleaning the blood off of his shield, by taking care of the horse, waking up early and cleaning up all the shit from the stable. And it is the knight who grooms that young man into being a modern day knight. We still do that as men. We are the knights, and it's our duty to groom them. And when someone says that's just old stuff, well, that's why anxiety, depression, drug use, infidelity, pornography, all this is through the roof because the dads are absent. And when there's an absence, like I said earlier, a vacuum is filled with some kind of vice.
Oh, you're so right. But I hope people are listening to this. I mean, especially all you young men out there, you know, pay attention. I want to switch gears a little bit because I know you're into this and probably an expert. My dad, from the time I was 6 years old, he believed in vitamins.
Yeah.
Vitamins. He was a vitamin freak. He would take 30 pills a day. When I was 6 years old, he used to chase me around, all my brothers and sisters, with cod liver oil, like the Little Rascals. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Cod liver oil, right? My brothers and sisters.
He was way ahead of his time.
Way ahead. Okay. We used to make fun of him. P.S. My dad lives to 103. When he was in jail, I used to go see him. Mike, they're not giving me my vitamins. I said, Dad, what do you want me to do? I tried to get it through the commissary. They won't do it. You want me to sneak them in? No, don't sneak them in. I'll get in trouble. That's all he cared about was his vitamins.
Yeah.
He got out, 100 years old, still taking vitamins. He lived to 103. It couldn't have been that wrong, okay?
Yeah.
But I know there's obviously a right program, with the right supplements. What's your take on that? Because
Yeah.
I know you're pretty knowledgeable in
Yep.
this area.
Yep. So I'm guessing we're talking in general, right?
In general,
because
yeah.
right, because it's 70 something versus 50 something versus maybe 20 something or 30 something, the needs are different.
Right.
There was a time that I still work out twice a day, but there was a time I could work
Twice
out
a day?
twice a day. Yeah, yeah.
Morning and night? How
Morning
do you
and
do
night.
that?
By making sure my sleep and food and supplementation is dialed in so I could recover. The first workout of the day is my selfish workout for myself. I work out alone first thing in the morning, and that's just to deal with the world's stress.
Mhm.
And I'm a meathead. I like to be big and strong. The second workout of the day is either with my son or my daughter or both of them, or sometimes with a client who's in town for coaching, maybe a friend. But my first morning workout is always solo. But that second workout of the day used to be meathead workout again, because my body would recover fast enough in my 30s. Now I'm 50. And my second workout of the day is more of high speed, low weight stuff. Sometimes it's just jujitsu for 90 minutes with my son or with Mike Velez, the black belt who I train with. But I found that in general, if you can lift weights 5 days a week, if you could run or get your heart rate up for at least 30 minutes, 3 days a week, and you could eat high protein, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, limit your processed foods. And people go, what is processed foods? If it comes in a container that you have to peel open, pull open, pop open, it's processed. If your grandma can't recognize the ingredient list, it's probably processed, right? And then keep your carbs and fat to a minimum. Simple as that. Because they've now shown that sugar promotes type 3 diabetes, which there was never a type 3 diabetes until recent years. And type 3 diabetes is dementia. My mom died last September of Alzheimer's. And sugar in the brain is type 3 diabetes. And so people think, well, just candy bars and sugar, right? No, that bread that you're eating is so highly processed, your body sees it as sugar. It's no
White
different
bread,
than a
right?
Snickers bar.
Mostly white bread?
Right, yeah. And so you keep your protein high, 1 gram per pound of body weight. You lift weights like a savage, like 5 days a week. You run or you do some kind of cardiovascular training, boxing, MMA, jujitsu, something 3 days a week for at least 30 minutes, like you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger. And then you eat things that are just unpackaged. They don't come in a package. They usually are in the peripheral of the grocery store, and you're going to be fine. And there's lots of healthy fats, fish fats, avocado fat, olive oil fat. We don't have to eat this processed corn syrup bullshit. In fact, RFK now is asking Coca-Cola to remove high fructose corn syrup from the soda pops, because in every other country, Coke just has cane sugar in it.
Yeah.
In the United States, we like to poison ourselves.
Yeah.
And
You support RFK?
yeah, 100%.
Me too.
100%, man. And so then what do? Well, we need to get our sleep, right? Your sleep is the number one source of recovery. So, you catch a cold, you catch a flu, they tell you, hey, slow down, cancel your appointments, get some sleep, because your body needs the rest to rebuild. And people don't realize when you're working out and that soreness that you feel, that's the microscopic tears in your muscle fibers. In the gym, when you're lifting weights, you're not building muscle, you're actually tearing muscle down. That's microscopic tears. That's why it's called DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS. And so if I've got microscopic tears in my muscle fiber and I don't provide enough protein to rebuild it, which is the building block, protein breaks down to amino acids, that's the building block of the muscles. If I broke down my chest today, because I train chest and shoulders, my body's going to go, well, I need protein. I'll break down the legs and back muscles, because it's protein, to rebuild the chest. And then when I train legs, but I don't need enough protein, it's going to break down other muscles to do this. And that's why you become you're always sore, you're always tired, you're always fatigued, and you look like a soft marathon runner. You look at marathon runners versus sprinters, that's no one, who the fuck wants a marathon runner's body, right? And so now you got your sleep, you got your water and hydration, and you got your foods in order. Great. Now we go to supplementation. And where supplementation is, and it's just that, it's supplementing all the other good behaviors. It's supplementing hydration, supplementing rest, supplementing recovery, supplementing whole food nutrition, high protein, moderate carbs, low fat. And so what is the number one muscle builder in recovery, which now, by the way, is proven in higher doses is good for your brain and cognition. Creatine, the most studied. In fact, I take 15 grams of creatine, so 5 grams 3 times a day. 15 grams.
Three times a day.
Yeah.
I'm on creatine, but I didn't do it 3 times a day. 3 times a day?
Yeah, you probably take 5 grams, like 1 scoop.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm telling you, triple it.
Really?
Do the research, triple it, and spread it out. Within 2 weeks, you'll see the cognitive benefits of it.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Our bodies, as we get older, it just simply we can't hold enough creatine. You're not going to eat enough red meat to get that creatine because then that's going to have other side effects of it. And so creatine, then you got your fish oils, right? You got your fish oils. You got your vitamin, you got to get sun. Sun is your best way. Like take your shirt off, go out in the sun. But if you're not doing that, get your vitamin D3 with K2 because K2 helps the D get into your system. If you're just taking vitamin D3, but there is no K2 attached to it, yeah, it's not working. It's not delivering the desired outcome. Great marketing. Hey, vitamin D, it's cheaper. Just spend another $1 more. I mean, these go to Starbucks and pay $8 for a frappuccino, yet they won't.
It's poison.
Yeah. On Amazon, they're shopping D3 versus D3 with K2 that cost $1.50 more. How about you just stop that once a week and do this instead? And so you got your creatine. You can supplement with high quality egg protein, egg white protein, or whey protein. And then you've got your, vitamin C, vitamin D. We talked about creatine, and do you need the other stuff? I don't know. It wouldn't hurt if you're financially in a place that you can take all the other stuff that are not as studied but have a marginal benefit. Hey, if you got the financial means to do it, do it. I take a shit ton of stuff like your dad does because I want longevity. I make good money. I earned my way to this position in life. Because people go, must be nice to afford all those supplements. Oh, it is nice because I've earned it.
You worked.
Yeah, I've bled for it. But that's the extent of it, man. But if someone said, like, what are the core supplements I need to take? Creatine, fish oil, vitamin D with K2, and you might need a supplement with some kind of whey protein if you can't get 1 gram per pound of body weight. Those 4 supplements on top of a great workout, sleep, getting sun, hydration, and then managing your stress. The thoughts that occupy your mind, that increases cortisol so high that now your heart's getting clogged up with plaque, your body's not recovering in time. Like manage, social media fucks us up so much. People go, how else do I build muscle? Avoid social media. Wait, how does that help me build muscle? Well, you complain you don't have time to work out and meal prep, but the average American is on social media 3.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
In 3.5 hours, I can get 2 awesome workouts and meal prep. And that's how you get lean and jacked. And you don't have to take in stupid information that it's all lies anyway, and propaganda. So there's my take on that.
You've just taken to another level everything that I hear around me all day long between my wife, my daughters, and everything else. But now, I'm glad I have this on video because I'm going to watch it myself and make sure we do all of that.
Yes, sir.
But I know you're enjoying this video, but I want to take 30 seconds to really tell you something that's very, very important to me and I think will be a big benefit to you. Recently, myself and my team, we've created a platform, a family, a community where people can come together and get some mentorship, advice, encouragement, maybe some business advice that you might need, something in your personal life. I found it so important. People want to be part of something, part of a community, part of a family. It's been my mindset my entire life. And so many people come to me asking me for advice and mentorship and, how do you overcome obstacles and challenges that you're facing? I want you to jump onto this link right now and take a look at it. It's an offer that you shouldn't refuse, and I say that sincerely, and it's not just a quip with me. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Jump on this thing. I think it's something that you're going to want to be part of. I really mean that. You want a real piece of me? You want to be involved? You want to hear me out? You want to get mentored, maybe even on a one-to-one basis at times? This is something that you should be involved in. So jump on the link right now. Take a few minutes to look at it, and let's get back to the video. No, that's it's so important. It's so important to take care of your body, and your mind. They work together.
You know what they say, right? They say the man who has his health has 1,000 wishes. The man who doesn't have his health has but only one wish, which is his health, your health.
Yeah.
And so if you got it, maintain it, keep it. You're not guaranteed it, Your dad died at 103. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to live to 103. I hope you do. I hope you live even longer, and I hope I do. But the harsh reality is, if there's something I can do that's within my power to stack the odds in my favor, why am I not doing it? It's 2025, for crying out loud. It's not 1942 where, we're, in homes that have lead paint and we're breathing this shit in. We live in a time that we have access to anything that'll give us longevity, but we'd rather screen suck on social media and drink sugar from what looks like a horse trough. Like, you look at the cappuccino that they got, well, it's not a venti, it's a Trenta. They got a Trenta cup now. Just put it on its side and it's a horse trough.
Yeah.
What the f are we doing?
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Recently, a gentleman, this is the last question on this. A gentleman took me to Costa Rica. He owns a stem cell facility down there, and kind of won me over. I got some stem cells, myself and my wife did. We got some of the program that they have there. But what he told me was very interesting. He said, the research now shows, Michael, he says, and I'll swear to it, incredible guy. He said, if we can live another 7 to 10 years with stem cells research and therapy, as it's called now, we can get you over 100 with a good quality of life. Do you have any knowledge of this?
I've read similar research. I haven't gotten stem cells yet. I certainly plan to, because I've been banged up throughout my life. I've had a knee reconstruction, tore a bicep reconstruction, recently got 2 hernias fixed. Which, by the way, people go, oh man, that sucks. It's all a byproduct of working out, being fit, being competitive. However, I'll take joint injuries over my heart being clogged up because I've got heart disease that runs in my family. So does stem cell work? Yes. Can it do that? Probably. I believe there's far more benefits that we're going to learn about stem cells, like we have learned about high dose of creatine in recent years. That, remember, up until recently, here in the United States, it wasn't even well researched because it was banned. Right. So we have to go outside of the country. So hopefully we can do more research and see that the benefits from it. Yeah. I think, in fact, not only stem cells, but also I think men who are probably north of the age of 40, 45 years old, get your blood testosterone levels checked. If your testosterone is low, get on TRT. Like, I'm on testosterone replacement. I'm not taking what I used to take when I was a competitive powerlifter in my 20s. I'm taking 200 milligrams of testosterone cypionate. My doctor oversees the entire program. I'm doing great. I'm not foggy headed. I have that continued drive. My body recovers again from my workouts. There's nothing wrong with optimizing yourself, right? Just like if you take a handful of aspirin, you're probably going to burn a hole in your stomach. But you take an aspirin when you've got a headache, it's going to solve your headache, and that's a good thing.
Well, Bedros, this has been, I think, very valuable. I really enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully everybody that's listening, whether you're a man, woman, girl, boy, you got something out of this, because the man is very wise. I trust and believe in everything he said here today. So hope you enjoyed. You got anything else you want to, tell people, or anything you're doing now that might be?
Yeah, well, I think there's one more thing to tell people watching and listening to this. This is something I said on stage many years ago and it went viral. I think it's worth sharing it here. But I think when we're talking like this, it's easy for people to go, yeah, but you've made it now. Michael, you've made it now. Bedros, you've made it now. My story is different. And I get it. We all have stories. You've told your story. I've told mine. I've come from the Soviet Union. I was molested as a kid. I was beat up here once I got here. Like, the story goes on and on. We all have stories. What I want to remind everybody watching and listening to this is, imagine your life being a book of empty pages, similar to this book here. And when you're born, mom and dad start writing your story. Oh, Michael likes to wear blue, because they decide to dress you in blue. And Michael falls a couple times, and maybe they go, oh, Michael's clumsy. And then as you grow up, they call you clumsy. And they go, oh, hey, no one in our family can swim well, so you probably shouldn't swim. And so you start believing all these things, kind of like that elephant, the baby elephant that they put a little stake in the ground, a tiny little string, and it's tethered there. Then it becomes a giant 8-ton elephant, and they still use the same string and stake because it is brainwashed to think that it is small.
Well, they could grab it right at it.
Exactly. And so what I tell people is, in the beginning phases of your life, probably till 16, 17, 18, 20 years old, other people have the pen and they are writing in your storybook of life, right? Teachers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, based on their experience in life. If you got grandparents that came from the Great Depression, they're going to tell, your shoes are fine. What do you mean you're going to get a new pair of shoes? My toes used to be sticking out of my shoes. That's what their barometer is, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, though, you have to realize, if you're 25 or older and you're watching and listening to this, the fucking pen is in your hand. You get to rewrite the story from this day forward. There's thousands of empty pages left. You decide how you look, how you dress, if you're good at math, if you're going to be a runner, if you're not clumsy. They buy into that story that was written for them, and then they spend the next 60 years of their life reliving that bullshit story instead of realizing I can take the pen back and start writing how the story ends. And I think that is one of the most empowering things a man or woman can do for themselves, and that's my gift to the audience here.
Well, Pedro, it's very, very wise, and
Thank
I really appreciate you being here and really contributing to my viewers. Some very valuable information.
I
Both
appreciate
being
it.
a man, women, pay attention. We're both. I like to consider us men, and we treat our women properly, and it's a benefit to them. Trust me on that. So, young men, manhood. That's what it's all about. So, and stay healthy. Important. Oh, okay. I was doing this for 4 years and I forget.
I'm doing great, man. All the time you guys need.
Perfect. Mr. Michael, let's do a little bit more. We'll cut it in. Asking about routines, morning and evening routine for somebody who wants
Sure.
to.
Okay.
Yep.
Bedros, routines are important in life.
Yep.
We have to get ourselves into a ritual, a routine, habit forming in a way, but I like to call it a routine rather than a habit. What do you say about that?
Yeah, it's a great question to ask. I did a whole podcast episode, and the title is Rules, Rituals, and Routines. See, I'm like a robot. Like when I find something that works, I just go, how could I optimize this and use it? And so I realized if I have rules, rituals, and routines. So I have rules. I'll never go shopping at a grocery store. If I'm shopping at a grocery store, I'm not doing this. So I've got assistants, I've got a maid, I've got a wife, I got all these people I can send to a grocery store. I'm not going to wash my car and get it gassed up. Other people can do that because other people can't sit here and deliver this message. And so I've got to free up as much time as possible for me to orate a message. For that to happen, I have to have other people. So I've got rules for life. Like I won't skip my morning workout. I won't answer the phone if it's randomly someone's calling me. And so you got to have your rules. That creates boundaries. Routines are important because if you have a routine, you are setting yourself up for almost, not 100%, but close to 100% predictable life. Because if you have a routine that, let's say you wake up at 5 a.m. In my case, I wake up at 5 a.m. I drink my 30 ounces of water because I've learned from Sean Stevenson, who's a great scientist, and he says the body dehydrates throughout the night because of all the breathing you do. So I chug a lug 30 ounces of water. It takes me about 2 or 3 minutes. I wake up angry and bitter at life, and so I listen to Jack Johnson. First thing I do is turn on Jack Johnson, and then I realize I'm not the most grateful type of person, so I send out 3 gratitude text messages to people that I love and people that I value in life, and that puts me in a state of gratitude. And then with Jack Johnson playing on my phone, I go and shower. When I go shower, I go downstairs and immediately start attacking my GSD list, get done list. You can set your clock to me and you can see me driving down the hill, heading to my gym at 9:30 every single morning. Like you could have a sniper on that corner ready to shoot me.
I was going to say, that's no good in the mob life if you're in trouble.
I was going to say, yeah,
routines
I'd be a sitting duck for your world. Yeah, I'd be a sitting duck. But that routine keeps me productive, efficient, and effective. Now, I say it's not 100% guaranteed because life throws you screwballs. I own a franchise, a supplement company, apparel company, software company, coach, consult, speak, etc. So somewhere something will go wrong throughout your day. And when it does, most of your day will be good. Some of it might have to require some finagling. And when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, you got 3 people. If you had the worst day, like your routine, everything went to like you had a, God forbid, you had a car accident and then you get home and your dog died and the wife left and da-da-da. But at the end of the day, guess what happened? 3 people that you texted in the morning sent you a thank you message telling you, I really needed that message. Thank you. And so even on your work, so the most selfish thing I do is send out 3 gratitude text messages. 1, to put myself in a state of gratitude. 2, when the day goes to, and some days do, 3 people are still going to tell me, thank you, I really appreciate what you did. Again, very selfish in that way, but it keeps me going. Nighttime routine is very much the same way. It's structured to make my day very effective. And so my nighttime routine is, the phone turns off at 9 o'clock. I'm in the hot tub by 10 o'clock. By 10:30, I'm in bed sawing logs so I can wake up at 5 a.m. I don't wake up to check my phone because I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. So I don't care if Instagram and YouTube and Facebook is up or not and who's posting what, because I'm checking in on my business, on my life, right? That's why I have that morning routine. So we covered rules and routines, and then there's rituals. Like before coming here, I have a ritual that I do, whether it's a podcast or a speaking event, and I stick to my rituals. Part of my ritual is asking the universe, and maybe down the line it will be asking God,
You will be.
to empower me with the mind and the heart to be able to orate in this camera and on this microphone, to be able to deliver a message that Michael's audience is going to resonate with. And I'll get the same drink from Starbucks on my drive if I'm driving. If I'm flying, it's a very similar routine of whatever hotel that I'm staying at. And I've got these rituals very similar. I describe it in my book like a fighter jet pilot going click, 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 the canopy, harness, does whatever, so that he could take off and go to war. I look at it as we are right now at war for the hearts of minds of all of your audience, because the opposition, big government, school system, media, is trying to win their hearts over by weakening them. We are in battle against evil. And for us to do that, I have to show up in the most formidable way possible. Could you imagine if I show up late, disheveled, unprepared, and you're like, who the f is this guy? Like, get the f out of my property, right? And so I have to have a routines, rituals, and rules that set me up to win every day. And some days, even in your best rules, routines, rituals, you still end up losing, and that's okay. You wake up and you fight another day.
Well, I will tell you this. God has blessed you today with the power of oration because you came across very clear, very concise, and I think it was a real benefit to my audience. So, people, I want to tell you, we try to be educational, informational, and entertaining. And I think my guest today, Bedros, has done all three. So I hope you paid attention. And as always, my friends, hey, thank you for tuning in. Bedros, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Really
sir.
a pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, my friends, well, there you have it again. You know, this is valuable information. You should soak it up. If you got to watch this 2 or 3 times, you know, to really hear what he had to say, or go on his platform. He has many videos out there. The same with Jillian Michaels. Go out and listen to them. This whole trend of becoming physically fit, of eating the better foods. You know, some people are against RFK because of his position on vaccines. Listen, there's some controversy there. I'm not going to get into all of that. But what he's saying about our diet is absolutely correct. We don't know what we're eating at times. We don't read those labels, and when we read them, we don't know what half the stuff is that they're putting in these foods, basically to preserve them for any length of time. We don't need that stuff. Listen to what Bedros had to say. Listen to what Jillian had to say. Listen to what JFK Jr. is saying. We've got to become healthier. My dear friend, Dan, who has the stem cell facility in Costa Rica, I believe it. I was there. I've talked to him. I've talked to his people there in the lab. He said with stem cell therapy, the way it's advancing now, if you can live another 7.5 to 10 years, you may be able to live to over 100 years old and in good health, a good quality of life. So why wreck your bodies now when we have these opportunities in front of us? We only get through this life once, people. We may as well do it the best way that we possibly can. So listen to what Bedros had to say. Again, play it time and time again if you have to. Go back and listen to Jillian. And let's hope JFK does get in there so we can become healthy again. That's it for today, my friends. How do I always leave you? Same way. Be safe. Be healthy. God bless each and every one of you and your families. God bless America. See you next time.